Thank you, Kelton Jones, for being on my With Miska podcast. I'm very happy that you're here.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Miska. I appreciate it.
Of course. Yeah, we were just talking about accents. So you said that you needed to learn an American accent.
Russian. Well,
Russian. Yeah, yeah.
Russian.
I need to learn American accent.
Russian, actually. So I got an audition to play kind of a Russian oligarch, or mafia boss.
Yes.
And so it needs to be an accent, and then it needs to be a character with gravitas. And
yes.
So one of the things that I was actually doing to get ready for it is that I was doing the Julius Caesar speech.
From Shakespeare?
Yeah, the Shakespearean. And
yes, I don't remember that speech.
It's the friends, Romans, countrymen.
I know that.
You know that one.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very well-known speech. But doing it in Russian as an oligarch might, it really helped slow down the language, and I was struck by how cool that speech actually sounds with a Russian accent. And now I think I might try to put together a cast and do a performance of Julius Caesar, but set it within the world of Russian mafia members.
I love it. I would love to audition for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, you'd be great.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, the thing is that because I cannot speak American accent, I would like to, but there's still a long way to go. So I usually audition for Eastern Europeans, Russians, Germans, whatever foreigners they need. Sometimes they need Finnish people. And once actually, I don't know, it might be even more than once, but at least once they actually changed the nationality of the character to Finnish, because they thought that, well, since you have the Finnish accent, let's make it he's Finnish that he likes. They thought about some Finnish band shirts, but they couldn't clear the rights. But yeah, so I go for foreign parts. Do you play a lot of foreigners or people with accents often?
Weirdly, it comes up. I just did a Domino's commercial, and part of it was in Spanish. So you had to do the commercial in English and in Spanish. So I had to learn I don't speak Spanish, so I had to learn the phrase, and then I had to get the accent right, which took a lot of work. And I was actually quite surprised when they cast me, but that was actually kind of fun. But there's getting the audition, and then there's actually doing it. So when we were recording it, you do the ADR after you do the wild lines, and
yeah.
There was someone who was a native Spanish speaker, and they were like making me do it over and over, and I'm like, am I not saying the same thing you are? it's like there's such subtlety, little differences in language that like it's really hard to hear if you don't speak it. But to native speakers, you're like, oh no, you said that completely wrong.
I know.
So it's a lot of work, the trick is always like if you can do an accent in front of someone who speaks that accent, normally, and how they respond to it. But I've had people ask me to do English accents. Like in the audition, they'll be like, hey, can you do that with an English accent? I'm like,
can you?
Sure. well, I don't really work on them, but I watch a lot of TV.
Yeah.
So, I watch a lot of BBC, and luckily I was able to pull that particular audition off, and the crew was English, and I'm like, that's not intimidating at all.
Wow. And you booked it?
Yeah. And
how did it go with the accent and everything?
Good. Yeah. I had time once we got into the production to work on it. But I did another one that was a Russian film, Russian director, and the character was like Eastern European. So like I just like made up an Eastern European accent, but luckily I watched a lot of Bond films growing up, so I guess that helped. But it's always, if you have time to prepare for it, then you can really get into the nuance of it. But I feel like, as an actor, you probably get this too. They always just throw things at you, and they're like, can you do this thing on the fly? And you're like, sure.
Yes, I know. And all the auditions come really quick too. Do you do a lot of auditions?
Yes and no. I think it's a lot, but probably compared to people that are doing a lot more of it.
But you do them constantly because you're a filmmaker too, but you still audition for other people.
Yeah, I still audition for other roles, commercials, or interesting things or whatever. But I try to be a little bit more selective. Like if I know I'm not right for a role, like if I wouldn't cast me, then I don't really push for it. Right?
Yeah. So, do you self-submit?
I have an agent that submits. I was self-submitting a lot. I haven't been lately because I've been working on other projects.
Yeah.
But I've kind of gotten to the point now where like I kind of want to just be in my friends' films. You know what I mean? Like I like working with people that I already know and have a relationship with. And the cold casting is always tough because you're always like, what do they want? What are they looking for? Whatever. So I think it's much more fun to sort of create your own projects or work with other people who are doing that.
I know, and you're doing that really, really good. Like, yeah. So we met at the commercial. We got to spend one day together. That was really fun. It was a few years ago.
That was really fun. When I got the audition for that, I never saw myself as really being a commercial guy.
Okay.
Because I don't really think I have a commercial look or vibe or whatever. Like when you see people that are good at commercials, they're like really good, right? There's a presence to those people, and I'm like, I'm more of a character guy.
And we got to spend whole day together, just waiting for our parts, and it was just basically me and you and some other people, but basically me and you just spending the whole day together, and it was really fun to talk with you. And I guess that's basically all of our interaction, apart from a couple of phone calls that I have done after that to you. So I remember it was so fun to talk with you, and you had just released your film Dry Blood maybe a year before that.
Yeah.
And I was just working on finishing my feature horror film Insanity. I was just releasing it, and it has come out now. So I wanted to ask you some good tips for releasing it. But all the tips were great, but I was too late with everything. Because when we were shooting, it was like 2 weeks to Halloween, and I was just releasing it. And you really emphasized like how you can use Halloween to release a horror film. Do you remember this?
Yeah. You can talk about it. You can use Halloween, I think, to boost the sales, but it's actually, from what I've learned, it's better to release in January, weirdly, for horror film, because there's so much that's released in Halloween, and people in the Halloween season tend to go toward their old favorites and their classics and whatnot.
Okay.
So it's surprisingly, for independent filmmakers, it's not necessarily the best time to release.
Okay, then I remember wrong what you said, but I just remember you said something about Halloween.
I might have thought that at the time. I don't know. But,
okay.
And it might have been that was close to our DVD release or something for it. I don't know. I forget. But there is a lot of great festivals around that time, though, that you want to hit.
Oh, Halloween festival. So horror.
That's good. Just the horror genre conventions in general are always great to go to. We actually did when we did our release onto Amazon Prime.
Yes.
The weekend that we released, Monsterpalooza was here in LA. And
it's a horror convention.
Yeah.
Right. So what is it?
It's a horror convention. It's actually like it's one of my favorite ones that I've been to, but mainly because like you go and you see people wandering around that are actually like fans of the genre. So
I want to go to one of those.
Yeah, you'll see like Jon Favreau walking around, or you'll see like one of the guys from Lost or whatever. So like you see a lot of industry directors and celebrities and special effects people and artists, but they're not there as necessarily the people hidden behind the booths, but they're the people wandering around because they're fans.
Wow.
And that's sort of what's great about getting into genre films like with sci-fi or horror, is that a lot of times the people who make the movies are like true fans of it, and so they geek out just as much as you do. So you see like this filmmaker that you think is so awesome, and he's buying like miniatures from some horror film that he grew up with.
Oh wow. So
that's kind of fun. But when we did it for that one, I think it was 2017. Anyway, for that, we did the Amazon release. I had my son, who's 6'4", and he's a dancer, and so he's very like whatever. And in the film, there's a little girl there's a headless ballerina.
Yes.
Like one of the ghosts. It's
yes.
A bit of a spoiler, but it's on the poster, so whatever.
Yes.
So we had him dressed as he has really long hair too. So we had him dressed as the ballerina girl with the slit throat and all corpsed out like a ghost.
Yeah.
And so he's walking around, and you've got this 6'4", dead ballerina walking around handing out flyers for the movie. It was great marketing. It was
Wow.
and for those conventions, like you'll have people like waiting in hours. Like they'll wait in line for like 3 hours to get in. And so we were able to just walk up and down the line of the people who hadn't even got in yet and talk to them about the movie. So it was actually
nice.
Great viral marketing for wannabe filmmakers out there that are looking for ways to promote your films.
All this is great. Yes. And were you selling DVDs, or what did you have in your booth? Did you have a booth?
There was so the distribution label that we had. Dread. They had a booth.
What is it called? Dread?
It was Dread.
Yes.
Which is a combination of Epic Pictures and Dread Central, the horror website.
Yes.
So they had a booth, and so they had Terrifier and Tales of Halloween and Dry Blood and several of their other titles
on DVDs.
On DVDs that you could buy.
And people actually...
we sold out, like our DVDs sold out like the first day because we were going around talking to people about it. So
that's really good. Yeah, I'm impressed. And I watched the film via Amazon, but it's on IMDb TV now, which is called something else.
Yeah,
Freevee?
Freevee or something
Yes.
like that. Or I think they changed the name.
And I was really impressed with the your distribution company's website, because it had like 20 different links the way you can watch the film.
Right, which they have to update because it's always changing. Like I can't really keep track of where it is because, like, you'll be on maybe Amazon Prime for like a few months, and then Amazon will cycle those out with new films.
Yeah.
And then it goes to somewhere else, and it goes to Roku, and then it's on like YouTube Red or whatever, or it's on I'm trying to think of some of that. There's so many that I can't even really keep track of all the various streaming services.
Yeah. So now when the film is out, and the DVDs exist, so someone probably can buy
and
them.
Blu-ray, yeah.
Okay. And it's on about 20 sites. You can even either pay a few bucks to watch it, or I watched it with ads. So you have those options too. How is it? It was released like a couple of years ago.
Yes. Yeah. We shot it in
2015, it says at the end credits.
It is just when that's when we filmed it, and then we did the festival route for like a year and a half of going and submitting, because like that actually for filmmakers out there that are interested,
yes,
like it really pushes your release date quite a bit.
Yeah,
to do the festivals, because you submit the festivals and you have to wait until the submissions are open, and then you have to wait months until they tell you whether you got in, and then it's another months before they show it, and so you'll spend a whole year by the time you go through all of the festivals, and then once you get to distribution, they're like, oh, we love it, and they're like, great, when does it come out? And they're like, I don't know, year and a half, and you're like, what? Because they have all of their distribution plan for what they're going to release.
Yeah.
So, I think by the time it finally released, I think 2019 maybe, was it 2019? I forget. Anyway, it was quite a while after we had actually shot it before it actually made it to the audiences. But we actually did get not only did we get a Blu-ray and a DVD release, but we actually released the album on vinyl with the soundtrack.
The soundtrack, yeah,
which is really cool.
I don't know which movie. In that you had bought a movie. No, not a movie, but a song. You had bought the movie because at the end there was someone singing a song.
Yeah, there's one song in there that we licensed, but all the rest of it was...
Can you tell me what it was?
The song at the end?
Yes.
What is it? It's Guy Lombardo. In the Pink, I think is the name. Is that the name of the song? I think it's In the Pink. Anyway.
But Guy Lombardo, anyway.
Guy Lombardo, yeah.
And the film is called Dry Blood.
Yeah.
Well, why did you choose to license the song? It probably cost something.
Yeah. That was and it still does actually. You have to pay every year on it. So
forever.
Yeah, like the life of the film, you keep paying for the licensing. So the song's making more money than the movie is still, but my son was really into like 40s. He was listening to like a lot of stuff. I think he'd gotten into it through like BioShock or something, because they had all of these cool 40 songs in the video game. And
okay, so, I don't know what it is.
BioShock. It's a video game. It's like a really
Okay.
cool video game. It's like I think it's kind of set in the future, but it's essentially like it was this world that was created, back in the 40s. But like this underwater world that has been left.
Do you play it too?
I'm not going to explain. 'Cause I'm explaining it badly. But
Do you play?
It's a really cool video game.
Do you play it?
I've played a bit of it.
Yeah.
I actually kind of ruined my ability to play video games back in the 90s because I played so much Doom that I got simulator sickness. And now if I play first-person shooters, I get nauseous.
So I haven't heard about that before. So when you get it, you always get sick still.
Yeah. Even now, like if I play, like those fast moving, because like
I remember Doom. Yeah.
Yeah. When you get really good at it, you're just flying down those corridors and you're turning left and right and making all these turns. And it really messes with your brain circuitry because your brain thinks you're moving, but your body's not. And so it creates this disconnect. So it's the simulator sickness. It's what happens to pilots.
Okay.
So in pilot training, like the pilots might get that if they're in a simulator and they're not moving, their body their brain can't really put the two things together because their ears aren't registering movement and changes, but the screen's changing and all of this. And so the brain just like, I don't know what to do here. And then you just get really nauseous and it's horrible. So anyway, I basically, I have that. So I have to stick to games that I can do like, third person.
Oh, cool. Nice. Yeah. So your son was playing. I was asking, why did you license a song? Yeah.
Without getting too far off tangents. So he was playing BioShock and they had all these great songs. And, I was trying to think of the one. I'm blanking on the song right now.
In the movie?
No, yeah, from the game. Like there was one in particular that he really liked. Anyway, so we were listening to this station that would play the old kind of 40s hits. And I heard the song and I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is so perfect for the movie. And I played it for Clint, who was the writer and producer star of it as well.
Yes.
And he was like, this is great. And once we heard that song in the context of the movie, it was like, there was no other song that would work. Like we had to have that one.
Yeah.
And I love it actually with, you saw the end, but I think it really, because it's such a chipper song, but then it's like the lyrics are so dark.
Yeah.
Like,
I know.
I love that.
It reminded me of the ending of Evil Dead 1.
Oh yeah.
Because at the end they have a really chipper song right at the ending credits.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important thing with a film because it's like, what do you leave the audience with, And if you have, especially if you have a really like kind of intense, crazy ending, you want to sort of pull them out of it in a way.
Yes, and I think it worked.
Yeah, I thought it worked.
Yeah. So you got the film finished, and you were talking about the festivals. But when you had the film finished, did you have any distribution? Anything secured?
Not at all.
You just shot the film, someone edited it, or
and,
you?
And it was all, actors that no one had heard of. So, like we really did everything that we could to not make money, really.
I know. I have done one film and yes, I know how it is. Yes. So you had the film finished. So then?
So the point, or the goal was to make a film that was so good that we would win festivals, and then we would take the festival wins and use that to get distribution. Which, weirdly, we were kind of able to do. Because we did the festival circuit. There was magazines that did write-ups on the film. People that had seen it at the festivals. We actually had a cover. There was a magazine that we had a whole cover of.
Wow,
which was pretty cool.
Did you have a promoter, or they really just picked it up?
No, it was just us because it was we just didn't really have the budget for any of the marketing or anything because it was so bare bones at the time. But
sorry,
I'll recommend that.
Yes, I'll interrupt. So just so the audience knows. So it's a horror film. Do you want to quickly say what kind of film it is or what it's about?
Sure. It's
you don't need to give it away, but so people just.
It's a guy who goes to this cabin, that he has with his ex-wife, and he goes there to get sober because he's an addict and he's pretty far along and whatnot. And so he goes to the cabin and he's going through withdrawal, and he starts to see these ghosts, these like really horrific images. And he doesn't know if what he is seeing is real or if it's because of the drugs coming off. So if he doesn't know if it's a hallucination or if it's really happening. And so he's trying to figure that out. And while he's there, like one of the local sheriffs is like,
Played by you.
Played by me, yeah. It's
Yes.
like, what are you doing here? You don't belong here. And like the sheriff can clearly clock that there's something wrong with this guy.
Yeah.
And he starts to suspect that that these people are, in fact, the ghost of people who have been murdered in the house, and that the sheriff might actually be responsible for killing these people in his house.
That's great.
So
I don't want you to give away the ending, but I think that's...
But that's the gist of it.
And the ending gets very graphic.
Yeah, it gets pretty crazy.
Very intense, yeah.
It's a very slow burn too. So like it's
yeah.
It's definitely a movie that like you have to sit with and go on for the ride. So it's in the streaming world, that's a little tough because a lot of times people, they're like, oh, this is boring. Like they won't watch a slow burn movie. But back in the 70s and the 80s, like all of the great films, they were all slow burns. It took a while to get into the world and to get a feel for the characters and what was going on. And it's a slow build of tension. You said you saw it with ads. I haven't seen it with ads. I'm curious how much that affects the pacing of it. Because it's meant to see, obviously the experience of seeing it in a theater is so different than seeing it at home.
Yeah.
And that's really different than seeing it with commercials, with having, these random spots that come in and break up the pacing.
It helped me because I was eating at the same time, like snacks. I was able to prepare some food while I was doing snacks.
Eat your way through the film. Yeah, if you're gonna eat early because you
and I did
eat after seeing the movie.
I know it gets pretty crazy. So you had who wrote the film? The lead guy,
Clinton Carney.
Yes. And were you hired or was it your creation?
No. So Clint and I we were working on another film that we were, that he had written that I was going to direct, that was based in the world of punk rock. And it was like a kind of a high school heavy, drama. That was also pretty intense, but it was really well written. It was very similar to, The Stranger, like Camus. Are you familiar with Camus?
I know it's a book.
Yeah, it's very existentialist.
Yeah.
It's very kind of bleak. But it was this really brilliantly written film that we were trying to get, and we realized along the way that you mentioned music and licensing. The music and the licensing was going to make the film at a budget much higher than what we were going to be able to raise as first-time filmmakers.
Yeah.
And it was also a period piece. It was set in the 90s. So that would require having a lot of, getting period vehicles and period clothing and period, anytime you do something that's set in a different time period, it's pretty tough.
Yeah.
It definitely creates challenges because then you have to get everything, you have to use visual effects to make the roads look different and the street lights are different and everything has changed, right? So it's a lot more work than it seems like. So anyway, so we were working on that film and realized like, wow, this is really expensive. And I'd gone to Sundance that year and I actually called Clint from Sundance and I'm like, I'm not going to go another year without making a movie. Like we need something that we can shoot now. And he's like, well, I've got this idea. He's like, give me a month to kind of, write out a script.
Yeah.
So like a month later, he gave me the script for Dry Blood and I was like, this is really freaking cool. This is great. So we worked on it. We made a few changes here and there, whatnot, and went into production like pretty quickly. So, I was at Sundance at the end of January, and then we were shooting the film by the summer. So it was a pretty quick turnaround.
Did you do in the Sundance? Did you talk about it or anything like that?
Talk about the.
Oh, sorry, I misunderstood. So in the Sundance. So you were in Sundance, you got the idea, and then you started working on it afterwards.
Well, yeah. Basically, at Sundance, I had met a lot of other filmmakers and directors and people whose work that I really really admired. And basically would sit around drinking whiskey and hanging out, talking to people, late at night about filmmaking, and it's very inspiring. Like
I've been in AFM, American Film Market, a couple of times.
Yeah, if you've ever wanted to go to Sundance, absolutely go, because it's like it's an experience. It really is, especially if you're a filmmaker, aspiring filmmaker. And I hear a lot of people say like, well, I don't want to go to Sundance until I have a movie. And I was like, you're really missing out, because there's something about being in an environment with people who not only who make movies, but people who love movies, and it reminds you why you got into it to begin with. And I think any festival, is going to do that to a certain extent. But there's something specific about that one, because it's in an area where there's not a lot of other things to do other than ski. People tend to just kind of hang out in the same town. Like if you go to see a film festival in New York or Los Angeles, whatever, as soon as the screening is over, everybody goes and has dinner, and they go to their different parts of town, whatever, and you never see them again. Right?
Yeah.
But if you're at Sundance, there's nowhere else to go. And so you end up like you're on the bus sitting next to the actors that you just saw in a movie the day before.
Nice.
You're, buying coffee, and you look over and it's the producer from, The Witch or whatever, So it's the ability to meet people, and not network in the sense of like, oh, you should hire me, but just talking to people that get it, that have your same passion for storytelling, can be very inspiring.
I get it. So you got inspired. You had done short films before.
Yeah,
and a lot of things.
Right. Yeah, and music videos and whatnot. And I had worked as a producer and a cinematographer on features. Like I've done features pretty much my whole life. But
I need to ask you, who's Kelly Jones? Because he's a grip gaffer and camera operator, and he has a paid IMDb page too, because he has a photo.
Right.
So
he looks oddly familiar.
Yes, but a different look.
Yes.
So what's up with these two? Because the reason is because I checked your IMDb, and then I know that you have done so much, but basically Kelton Jones starts working like 2010. I was like, what happened before that? And then I found Kelly Jones.
That's funny. Yeah, you did some detective work. Essentially, the way IMDb works is it puts whatever you have the most credits in, that's what it says you do.
Yes.
And so for many, many years, I worked in the lighting and camera department. I was a gaffer, I was a cinematographer, whatnot. So I have like a lot of credits from a lot of different movies and TV shows and whatnot.
Texas Ranger with Chuck Norris.
Yeah, Walker Texas Ranger was the early one. Yeah, because I actually started in like 1987. I think.
Wow,
was the first film. And anyway, so I had this massive amount, and I knew that when we released the film, that it would get lost in these other credits. So if people looked me up, they would see like, oh, this guy's a grip, or this guy's an electrician or whatever.
Yeah.
They're not going to think like, oh, he's a filmmaker, he's a director, whatever. So I actually created a new page based on Kelton, which is actually my whole name. Like Kelly's short for Kelton.
Yeah.
So I created a page for that. And then that's been primarily the work that I've been doing as a producer or cinematographer or director, an actor.
But you still want to keep up the Kelly Jones page?
Well, I don't keep it up. It just exists. So, IMDb basically decides all that.
Okay. I thought that they remove your photo if you stop paying.
I
might be wrong.
Sure. I think if it was
actor,
I think if it predates a certain amount, certain year, so like, and by the way, I hate that IMDb does that, because the whole point of IMDb is that you could look up actors and see what they did, but they started monetizing every aspect of it and making actors pay to have their picture on there. And I was like, actors that were in a movie in the 80s, they're not going to pay to have their picture in there, and like, that's who I want to find out. I was like, wait, this guy was in this movie. And you know what I mean? So there is a certain amount of archiving that they do with older actors. So I think if you had an IMDb page before they started doing the pro accounts and charging for that, they left the images up.
Okay, and the image is old.
Because otherwise, like you wouldn't, there wouldn't be a picture of like Robert Mitchum, or like like who's going to maintain that?
That's true, yeah. But that's a good idea to have two separate pages like that.
Yeah, I'll eventually merge them or whatever, I'm sure.
But no, I totally get it why you did it. Yeah, so you got inspired in Sundance. Then you called your friend. What was his name? Clint. He got an idea. Then you had a script for Dry Blood. Right. What happens then?
Well, we had already been raising money for the other film, and so
for the punk film.
And we went to the investors and we said, and we were actually the way that we had structured the contract with them is that if we went a year without raising the full funding that we needed, that they would get their money back.
Yes.
And so we were getting close to when that year was up anyway. And so we basically asked all, was like, well, we're getting close to the end of the contract. We're going to give you your money back. But we have this other movie idea that we want to do. Would you be interested in just moving that money over into that project? And with the exception of one person, everyone else was like, yeah, that's fine. They'd already kind of, forgot about the money anyway, I think.
What kind of people? Like, who do you go to?
That's a really good question. And that is, I guess that's the $1 million question with filmmaking, right? Is who the hell pays for this?
Me, it's now $15,000 question. Because I'm shooting my next indie feature, and I've shot 5 days now. So I need a little bit more money to finish it. I'm shot 5 out of 14.
I used to think, like when we did the first one, I used to think it was people who were looking for an investment. They're like, oh, I could make a lot of money off of a movie.
Yes.
But the truth is that movies don't make money. Distributors make money. People who rent equipment make money. But filmmakers very rarely make money. And people who invest in movies very rarely make money. Like you do have the one-offs, but it's like it's a very small percentage. So if you're looking to make money, invest in real estate. If you are looking to support an art form that you love, then invest in the arts. So like you can invest in opera, you can invest in ballet, or you can invest in film, and it's about maintaining an art form that you believe in. And that's what I sort of came to realize, is that it's much more of a philanthropic endeavor than it is. And yeah, there's the potential that you could make money back, whatever. But really, like when I talk to investors now, I'm like, we're going to do everything that we can to make you money, but the numbers don't really favor us. But we will make a good film, and you'll have your name on something that you can be proud of, right? You can be part of something, and I think that there's an appeal to that. So that's helpful, and generally, like the people who invest in movies, if you're going to do a film, it's somebody who's investing in you, not so much in this idea that it's going to make a lot of money. So it's not a venture capital endeavor so much as it's like I believe in you, and I think you're going to be a great filmmaker, and I like you, so I want to see you do well. So I've got money to spare, and I'm going to give you some because I want to see you be what you can potentially be.
Yeah.
Right. So essentially, the people who really end up investing in movies are people who believe in you. And sometimes that's family members, sometimes it's friends or fans. Clint actually is a brilliant oil painter and musician. And so he actually has a huge group of patrons and fans that collect his artwork, that follow his band, whatnot. And so a lot of
what's the band called?
System Sin.
System Set.
System Sin, like
System Sin.
It's like industrial music. It's actually really good. Really, I was when I first heard his music, I was like, I am so glad this is good. Because when you have a friend and you hear their music, you're like, oh yeah, I'll listen to your music, but it's usually not great.
Yeah.
So when you actually go, I actually really like this. I would actually own this album, and so when you're actually like can be a fan of your friends, like that's so nice.
Nice. Do you mind saying his whole name, last name too?
Clint Carney.
Cool. If people want to check out his painting.
Yeah, check out his paintings. It's it's very surrealist, and it's dark art. I don't think he really likes the term surrealist, but dark art.
Yeah. So you said
Cool
that he had some fans who you were talking about, like who to ask for money and how it works.
So he had people that collected his art pieces. His art sells for a couple thousand, or more, depending on the piece. And so there are people who collect his artwork, and so some of them, and then he had friends that invested in. I had friends that invested in it. Obviously, I put my own money in. My son invested in it. It's like I said, it's people who want to see you do well, and they want to be part of something that's cool. Ultimately.
Do they come to the set, or do you offer anything like that?
If they can, if they want to. And when we did the festivals, a lot of them, especially our larger investors, like they came and we brought them on stage with us, and it was the whole, but it was very much like that film was very much a family film. And in a sense, it's not a family film to watch it, but it was a family film to make it. So my wife was producing it, and she did sound, and she did craft service, and she did wardrobe, and she did set dressing, and like all of the things that go into it. The house belonged to Clint's brother. His dad, who was a sheriff, was like our technical advisor, and he let us use his Jeep, so like that's
So it was a real sheriff Jeep.
Yeah. It was his Jeep, but like we made it into a sheriff Jeep.
Yes.
But
it looked convincing.
But the weapons, so he was our weapons master. So like the shotgun, that was like a real, that was his, all of the body armor that I wore.
Yes.
All of the stuff that we had.
Where was it shot?
It was shot up in between Lake Arrowhead and Big Bear. It was up in that area.
Was it difficult to get the convenience store?
No, not really. We rented it. We gave them a certain amount, but like we found a place, and
a real store. Yeah,
it was a real working store, and they closed it down for us for the day and let us shoot there. At the end of the day, like movies are cool. Like we all grow up watching movies and TV, and fantasize about being these characters or being part of the process or whatever. So, especially when you get out of LA, where everybody makes movies, if you get out into an area, you have people who are like, yeah, a movie, that'd be neat. That'd be kind of cool to do, or be part of, whatever. Yeah. And it's great to be part of it. The business itself, it's like is what draws us to it, I think, to begin with. And the same with theater. It's like you're drawn to the art of it, and it's not so much about like, oh, hey, look at me. It's more like, oh, this is so cool to be part of something that I grew up with that's meaningful to me. And like, it's a communal experience, and it's like a communal art piece. And I think people like being part of that. So a lot of times people will be like, yeah, you can shoot at my house, or yeah, you can, use my car or whatever,
Yeah, it's nice to ask something that is not money from people, like locations or can I use your car? I'm having some problems asking for money from people, especially knowing that you're probably not going to get this back. But I feel like that you have done the work, and you can, the speech that you just gave, it's really convincing, but it's also truthful, that it's more like philanthropic, and if you want to support art, we will use this money to make a movie. But I'm having trouble, like I'm not mentally there yet. I put a Indiegogo up, which was easier because I put it up and people could invest if they wanted, but I didn't send it to any specific people.
Right.
Yes. I didn't make any money with that. But I have some people who have some people who have been supporting me, but it's been really nice that one of these people gave me a location to shoot at. It was nice.
Right.
But I really would need some money to complete the film, so we'll see how I'm gonna solve that.
Yeah, and I think, it's always hard for us to ask for money in general. Like it's a skill set, being able to do it. It's like, some people are really good at sales. Some people are really good at whatever. And like to go and ask, friends or strangers or relatives or whatever for money, like you're like, I know you need this money, but I need this money to do this thing. And they're, so you start downplaying what it is that you're creating. Right. And, you're creating something that, you're putting your heart into, that you're putting your love into, that you believe in, that, you're trying to do something cool. You're like, I'm trying to do something cool. Help me do something cool and be part of it with me, and I think if you have that approach to it and that mindset, of like, I'm giving you an opportunity to be part of this bigger world. This is a legacy thing of like, no matter what happens to me tomorrow, there's a movie out there that I was part of making. You know what I mean?
And your name is gonna be on it.
and your name becomes part of it, and even beyond that, there's something about like being part of it. It's almost like. I was in New York recently, and I was working with a guy who was working on set, and his father was a mason, and he worked on like Empire State Building or whatever his grandfather would, and he's like, he can look at it and go, I was part of that. I was part of building that building, and there's this structure, there's this physical thing that exists in the world that I was part of making, right? And you can have that same feeling about, an NGO, charitable organization, or you can have it about a building, or you can have, but there's something about making something tangible that exists in the world that makes the world slightly better than if you weren't there. And I think ultimately, like, as humans, like, we have an inherent need to say, I was here.
Yeah. Which we do every day when we create our art, but someone who doesn't create art can support that by giving money.
Right.
And then he becomes someone who was part of creating that movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Something exists that you're part of, and like I said, that could be a bridge or a building or
and for me it's also this podcast.
Right.
Like, this is what we're doing.
This will be here forever. And
yes, unless if you change your mind and you ask me to pull it later. But it's the same feeling.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So do you want to say how much you needed for Dry Blood? How much was the budget?
Oh, the budget for that? Our budget was $100,000. We actually ended up not even, because we left a little bit of a window, so we didn't ask for the full amount. Like,
yeah,
I think we ended up raising like 87, somewhere around there.
And that's real money. You don't calculate the free cars.
That doesn't. That's actual money.
Wow.
So we actually came in under budget.
Nice. That's awesome. And how long did you shoot for?
I think as far as the number of shooting days, I think we did about. I think officially it was scheduled for 15 days, and then we had a couple of like little pickup scenes, or whatever. So I think it might have been close to like 18, but the last 3 weren't like full days. It was like, oh, we're going to go do a scene here.
Yeah, probably a pretty small crew.
Really small. So like I said, my wife was on the crew.
What did she do? Lots of things.
Lots of things. She did makeup. She did wardrobe. She did set dressing. She did craft service. She made the coffees. She did the food runs. So like producing, but also producing and physically doing all of the other things.
I have done lots of that position. Yeah.
My sons both worked on the film in various capacities. So my son Zeke was he was the gaffer. I think he was 15 then. Yeah, he was 15. I think he just turned 15. So our gaffer was 15-year-old. And then Declan, who was 13 at the time, he did he did a lot of the sound. So he was doing sound when my wife wasn't, and he was doing all the mechanical effects. So like if you had a door that needed to move, or you had a thing that moved, he would be like under a tarp moving things. Or whatever. So he was doing a lot of the mechanical effects, whatnot. So they were there for a lot of it. There's a scene, not to spoil it, but there's a scene in there where my character has this really horrific thing happened to him and whatnot. And there's
Yeah.
a lot of blood involved. And we're doing the scene, and we had all of these blood tubes run up so we could do all of the fake blood squirting
Yeah.
and all of that stuff. And we checked all the tubes and everything worked great. But once I was laying down, it changed the positioning of everything.
Yeah.
So when they did the spurt of the blood, it shot right up my nose and down my throat and pretty much into my lungs. So now I'm like choking, and I was, you see in the movie, I'm like choking. I was literally choking on fake blood in that moment, but I didn't want to bust the take.
Yeah.
So I was like trying to get through the take without losing consciousness. And I'm like, okay, how
Wow.
long can I go before I actually like pass out, because I couldn't actually breathe. And when you see Clint in the shot, there's a shot of him and he has this blood splatter on his face. That was actually the blood I was coughing up.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Rough.
It's like really brutal. Yeah.
It looked great.
Yeah. So it's like this, like I said, I didn't want to bust the take,
Yeah.
because we only had one shot of it, and I can't, because
Yeah.
we'd have to redo everything. And so I'm like, I don't die.
It was really good.
like I really thought like that was a thing of like kind of rolling the dice there.
Yeah.
So I did this really horrific death scene, and then I look at the end of it and I realize that my wife and sons are there as the crew watching this scene, and it's all make believe and it's all pretend and it's all fun. But when you're seeing your dad die on the floor,
Yeah.
in a really graphic, brutal, horrible way, I look over and their eyes are just like, they're like crying, and I'm like, oh my God. I can't, like that was really like, oh, sorry guys. I'm like, that's going to be some therapy bills later.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Horrible.
Yeah. But they, they're still making movies, and they're both working in the industry. So they
And one of the sons went to promote the film.
Yeah.
Dressed as a ballerina.
Exactly.
So you shoot the film, it's finished, and you have used most of the $80,000. So what do you do then? You said festivals, but how do you go? I guess what I'm after is that how do you go after distribution, and how does it work out?
It's like all of these things, like all of these paths are like, there's what we did. Maybe that works for you. Maybe it doesn't. And you can read so many different stories of how people got distribution or how they got funding and whatnot. And the only thing that's consistent is that it's completely inconsistent. It's different for everybody, and it's different based on what you have. So essentially, like if you have a project, it's like, what do you have going for you? Do you have recognizable actors from that genre that people like?
Yes.
That's going to help. And that actually, in retrospect, if we had cast the film using recognizable actors who had been in movies that people liked, we would have had a much easier time getting distribution. But as it was, we were getting distribution based on the fact that like we were winning festivals, and we were getting, really good write-ups in magazines and articles and whatever. But you can't count on that at all. I mean, that's luck, because you can't control how an audience reacts to your film. You can only make the best thing that you can make.
How do you feel about talking to distributors before you start shooting? When you have a plan, cast, all that.
That's the correct way to do it.
Okay.
You want to, I say correct, but really it's the smarter way to do it. We didn't have access to those things at the time. We didn't know. So there's a lot of, excuse me, there's a huge learning curve,
I know, I'm in the middle of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You make your first movie and you're like, oh, that didn't work out like I thought it would.
Yeah.
And you learn a lot, and then hopefully you make another. The thing about making your first movie versus your second movie is like really the only thing harder than making your first movie is making your second movie.
Okay.
And the only thing harder than that is making your third movie.
Okay.
So it never gets easier.
Yeah.
In fact, you learn a lot in the process of doing it. But one of the things that you learn is that everything that you thought was wrong. And so you don't have that naivete that you go into with the first one of like, we're going to make so much money and this is going to be so successful and people are going to love it. And, and you realize like, maybe, but like you don't know what you don't know. But when you go to make the second one, you know too much. and you've seen the numbers of how it's received, or how much money you make out of it, or you have this thing, and like all of the things that were so much harder, so it becomes really difficult to convince yourself to jump back in the ring.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like boxing seems like a great idea until someone punches you, But it's like, after you get up off of the mat, it's like, I survived that. But it's like, do I really want to box again?
That's good. Well, actually, okay. So your second film, Off the Devil, you have some celebrities.
Yes.
The bad guy from Commando and Mad Max 2.
Right.
Vernon Wells. Is there some other celebrities, at least him?
There's a lot of really great, talented actors. I was very fortunate with the casting on that.
Yeah.
So Eileen Dietz, who was in The Exorcist. So
okay.
She played she played Reagan. So Reagan was played by 4 different actresses, essentially.
Oh wow.
So Linda Blair did. If you know all of the lore of the movie. So
I know
she did all the scenes with her mom and whatnot.
Yeah.
But they actually made up Linda and Eileen so that they looked identical, really, with all of the makeup. And so she did all of the scenes that were like the really horrific scenes where she's being possessed. So the crucifix masturbation scene, the throwing up the green thing, the floating above the bed, like all of the stuff that happens in the demon mode. That was all Eileen, and the Pazuzu creature. So there's like a flash image of this like demon face that happens in the movie. That was Eileen with the makeup.
Oh wow.
So anyway, so she's kind of horror royalty.
Nice, well. And I guess people know him.
What's that?
Yeah, horror people know him.
Yeah,
know her.
Yeah.
Her. Yeah.
So people that really know horror know who she is. She was also in like the Planet of the Apes series.
Oh wow!
And General Hospital. She was a
So since you were wiser after the first film, so Off the Devil is now finished, but it's not released yet, right?
It hasn't been released yet.
Yes,
so,
because you sent me the link and I saw it, but it's not out yet.
Right. So it's. I think it's a couple of months away from release. It should be the end of the summer, I believe, is when they're planning on releasing it.
So after the first film, since you were wiser after that, how did you go about doing Off the Devil?
Well, I think the big thing was bringing in as many talented, experienced actors as possible. I think you can get really talented people in films that don't have a lot of credits, but it makes it a lot harder when you go to try to sell it. And even when you do sell it, it's like, if you look at it from the distributor's point of view, it's how much money am I going to put into this movie in order to get money back? So if you have a movie that has a recognizable face in it, or it has something about it that really, people are drawn to, then it makes sense to put money into a campaign and marketing. And if you don't market a film, people don't know about it. And if people don't know about it, then they don't watch it, or they don't pay to see it, whatever. And so it doesn't make money unless you spend a lot of money. So it's like how much you spend on the movie is almost less important than how much you spend on marketing the movie.
I have learned that.
Yeah. So that's really the thing. And so what you want to do is that you want to help the people that are trying to sell the movie make it as sellable as possible to get people to watch it. And so, if you can put somebody in there that they like. And one of the tricks, obviously, is that it's very expensive to have a lead actor who was a major actor, whatever, because when you get into you have to pay them a lot. But you can pay somebody for a day or two. Usually that's within the budget range if you're making a really low budget film.
Yeah.
And so it's actually easier to fill the smaller roles with recognizable names than the larger ones. So, if you're, kind of smart about that, you can do it to where you spend one day shooting, 4 different scenes or 5 different scenes or however many that are peppered throughout the film. So you see these characters kind of come and go, and so you see this a lot in movies now. Like you'll see like a big name actor, on the cover, and then you see him for like a scene or a few scenes or whatever. They're not the character that you're following.
Yes. Who was Eileen?
I'm not going to give any examples of that because I don't want to.
Yeah. Who was Eileen playing?
She was June. She was the next door neighbor.
Oh, yes.
That had the dog.
Because she comes and... How many days did you have her?
We had her for maybe 3 days.
Because she's there quite a lot.
Yeah.
Like throughout the film.
Yeah,
and same thing with the... I don't want to give too much away, but same thing with Vernon Wells.
Vernon, yeah.
He's...
Yeah, Robert Lasardo's in it as well.
Yes, of course.
He's phenomenal. Oh, he's so good. So I actually wrote that role for him.
Yeah,
because like I was picturing him in that role, and at one point they're like, "Oh, he may not be available." I was like, "No, we have to have Robert. It's got to be Robert."
Yeah,
I will die on this hill. It has to be Robert.
Yeah,
I wrote that role for him, and he just killed it. Like it was so good.
I know. So how has it been selling? Oh, well, actually, I'll go a little bit back. So after the first film, you said that the music is making more money than the film.
Yeah.
So I guess, were you able to make money back to investors or with the first film, Dry Blood?
Yes.
You were?
But it takes a long time because essentially like there's so much money that goes into, it sounds great to have a theatrical release and a DVD and a physical release, but it costs money to print those DVDs. It costs money to rent the theaters and whatnot. So the more of those things you do and the more you spend on marketing, that money all has to be paid back to the distributor before you make any money. So by the time they get their percentages and cover their cost, all of the early profit's going to go to paying back the distributor. And then once you get to a point where they're paid off, then you get into, how much did it make on top of that? And
but if you made at least $80,000, that's a lot of money for indie film to make.
Yeah. Well, we didn't. We made the distributor back. So most of the money went to the distributor.
Yes. Okay.
Basically, so the investors have not recouped the 80,000 yet. So and as one of the investors, like I haven't seen a lot of money. So that was like one of the things where. That's part of the learning curve, is that like we fully went into that thinking like we can make a lot of money off of this, and this could be the next Paranormal Activity or Blair Witch or whatever. But
that's what I was hoping too with my film.
Yeah. So what I've kind of figured out, reading a lot of books from other filmmakers and reading the stories and whatnot, it's like essentially like when you have those films that break out like that, like Robert Rodriguez's film or those films or some of the other ones, it's not because the filmmaker did anything particularly right. It's that somebody decided to champion that film and make that into a marketing campaign. So, with those films, somebody had a vested interest, and I'm going to use this film to build my company, and I'm going to take a no-name film with unknown actors, and I'm going to make it huge. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to put billboards all up and down Sunset Boulevard, and I'm going to, do a major media blast. So like those movies weren't made for a lot of money, but they spent millions and millions of dollars marketing them. And the model for those films was that you spend millions of dollars marketing them, but you make it all that money back the first weekend because you do a big wide release on it. Whatnot.
Yeah.
And those kind of opportunities are very rare. But it's generally like when historically when that's happened, it's because somebody who really knows distribution, somebody who really knows the market and how to make a film successful on the business side of it, decides to take a project and usually they're starting their own company. And so they want this to be like, this is going to be my flagship project or this is something new. So like, that's what happened, essentially with Phantasm, it's what happened with Paranormal Activity. Whatnot.
Yeah.
That somebody who was really brilliant marketing, had the connections, knew what they were doing, was like, okay, I'm going to use this and this is going to be the film I champion. And this, I'm going to make sure that I make money off of it.
That's cool. I didn't know that. Yeah.
So it's as a filmmaker, you learn that and you really like, wow, this is really out of my control. So it's really like, having those opportunities have to do with who you partner with and who you impress and who decides to make you a star.
Who decides to make you a star?
What's that?
Who decides to make you a star?
Yeah.
That's a Hollywood sentence, but that's true.
It's true. It's true. And if you look at all of the unknown filmmakers who made it, and there was always somebody who was an industry veteran who knew what they were doing, who decided this is going to be the next, story and deadline about how this, rags to riches story happened. But it's never just somebody doing it on their own.
Yeah. Wow. What's your opinion on indie filmmakers taking some salary themselves?
Well, you absolutely should. This is what you do. This is your job. You've dedicated your life to being good at this, and you need to be able to survive and pay your rent. So if you look at the venture capital world, there's people that create apps, or they create businesses or whatever, and they pay themselves. So this idea that you should martyr yourself in your art by not supporting yourself is it's kind of insane. And it's not really
common.
What's that?
It's very common. Yeah.
But it's from if I was investing in a project or a movie or whatever, and you weren't taking a salary, I would be suspect of that, because I was like, why are you not taking a salary? Do you not consider yourself worth paying? And if you're not worth paying, why am I giving you money? You know what I mean?
That's well said. I will remember that.
But it's also so if I give you money to create an app or a business or a film or whatever, which a film, that's really how you look at movies. It's it's a business that you create.
Yeah.
Right? Is that if I'm giving you money to do something, I want your full attention on doing that thing. So if I give you money to make a movie and I know you've got to make all your bartending shifts that week, you're not spending time on rewrites, on talking to the actors, on, producing it or doing the best that you can do to make that successful, than you would be if you were paying yourself enough to live on, and pay your rent and whatever, while you're doing the project. So I think it's a little silly to not pay yourself.
That's great. I mean, that's great what you're saying. And I think I'm learning.
Well, essentially, it's so much of this has to do with what am I worth?
Yeah.
What is my time worth? What is my film? And I think a lot of artists and filmmakers kind of go and they have this well, I'm doing this thing, and they don't believe in themselves and they don't believe in their projects. They do because they believe in it enough to do it, but they come in with this idea that they don't, and that they have to be subservient or whatever, or that's somehow appealing, to somebody, that you prostrate yourself, whatever. And it's not. Because that's not what you want to invest in. You want to invest in somebody who's confident and who believes in a project, and you want to be part of something great. You don't want to invest in a film out of pity. You want to invest in something that's going to be cool.
You're great. You're great. I love it. Yeah, I feel that many, and I'm also too humble with some things.
It doesn't help.
No.
We want to be humble, and ultimately, I think we are. There's a thing that the art is greater than us. It's the same thing with theater. It's like I'm trying to do something that's much bigger than me. And I'm trying to do whatever, but I'm completely competent. I am the right guy to do it. Right, and you can't go into a meeting feeling like you're not good enough to do it. And you don't want to project that you're not good enough to do it, whether it's an actor playing a role or whatever. So there's really no room for humility in business. You know what I mean? There's room for kindness, there's room for compassion, there's room for teamwork, but you need to know your worth, and you need to bring that, and you need to bring all of it.
I love it. Thank you. What's next for you? You're releasing the film, and what else?
Oh, so much. Right now, actually, oddly, I'm writing a book on filmmaking.
Wow.
So I just did an interview with Sean Cunningham, who was if you're not familiar with horror.
No, it's a really familiar name, but I don't know. No, who is he?
He was one of the most successful indie filmmakers. He was the director for the original Friday the 13th.
I know that, yes.
And producer of all those. And so, he'd made several films before that. But Friday the 13th, like it's kind of a famous story. Basically, he hired a photographer and he took a piece of glass and he hit it with a hammer. And the photographer took a picture and he took that picture and wrote Friday the 13th on it. And then he went in with that picture and got $600,000. He got somebody to give him $600,000 based on the picture. He didn't have a script. He didn't know what the movie was about. He just had a cool idea for a poster. And that was the original poster idea. So just on that key art idea and this idea that this was the scariest movie ever made. And he's like, I didn't know what it was. He didn't know how it was going to be scary. It was just going to be scary.
Yeah.
And somebody said, okay, sure. Here's some money. And, so he made the movie and took it in and showed it to Paramount. And they're like, cool, we'll release this. But he did it based on the idea of like, I've got something great and I'm the right guy to do the job.
Yeah.
Right? And so he went in with that and he got it funded and it made it. And then the audience loved it. And it was a bigger hit than anyone ever could have foreseen. And it created like, a whole slew of films afterwards. Obviously there were films, popular films that were similar, before that, but that one was like definitely one of the ones that inspired tons of filmmakers.
Yeah.
It was really brilliant marketing.
Wow. And I can read about that on your book.
That's actually pretty common knowledge. So like like that bit that I just told you, that's, but I think a lot of what the book is going to be covering is sort of like, what does it actually take to make a movie? Like, how do you make money doing this? How do you make a movie and then make another one? How do you, make it in the industry? And then what does it mean to be a filmmaker? How do you work with actors? Like there's so much that I feel isn't really covered in a lot of those books. I've read tons of them, and I'm sure you have as well. But it's like when you get into making a movie, you're like, I'm really unprepared for this. Like I've read so many books and I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. So hopefully it's an attempt to impart some of that. So I'm going to try to talk with some other filmmakers, specifically independent filmmakers, and see what their process was like.
Yeah, and I think the whole distribution has changed quite a lot.
It changes all the time.
Few years, yeah.
Yeah, it's like it changes so much that you really can't write a book on film distribution because when the book's out, it's irrelevant.
That's true. Yeah.
Because it changes so much, but there is so much great information out there. Obviously podcasts are great and, YouTube tutorials and whatnot. And, really, you got to just talk to people who are doing it. And it's like, what'd you do?
Yeah. I learned a lot from podcasts.
Yeah.
Filmmaker podcasts.
Yeah. And everything like what we did with Dry Blood to get that released. None of that applies now, right? Because it changes so fast.
Yeah.
That like whatever we did, like, yeah, it kind of worked for us, but it's not going to work for the next person, and the same way that like, people look at, Blair Witch or Paranormal Activity and they're like, oh, that's one of them. Just like, yeah, that's not going to happen because that world doesn't exist anymore. The industry has changed so much. You're not going to get a major theatrical release. You're not going to get DVD sales that make your money back. Whatever. It's like it's a streaming world now. So it's like it's different.
You're right. What are the websites that people should visit? Where can they find your work?
Right now, like if you're looking for Dry Blood, if you go to Dry Blood. At Epic Pictures, like there's a great page that they have that shows like all of the links, and you can see all the links as to where the film's playing right now. It
was a really cool page from a filmmaker point of view.
Yeah, Epic was phenomenal. Like as far as distributors, like I love the relationship with them. Like I really felt like that was a very kind of family relationship. Like all the people who were involved in it, like they really love film. They love horror. Like they they used to have these before COVID. They would have all the directors that wanted to come. Like we'd all get together and have dinner, and we'd have like,
wow,
we'd go to like a brew pub or whatever, and sit around and just talk about movies, talk about what we're doing next, whatever, and, exchange ideas. And sometimes we'd end up like helping each other on projects and whatever. And it was like, it was very different than the traditional distribution model, and like a lot of how they created that. Kind of getting off the topic from it, but the way that Dread set up their things is that what they did, instead of just the normal distribution where you throw the movie out and just see how it does in the market, whatever, and it's packaged with a bunch of other movies, they actually did a curated release where they released one film a month, and for that whole month they would promote it on Dread Central. And so like that would be the banner, like when you go to the webpage, whatever, like the banner would be for that film, whatever. And, they really gave the time to the film, and they would do, theatrical showings, and they would have, events and whatever. And so they would really hype the film in a great way. Yeah. And they picked films that they felt like were interesting to have in a collection. And so it's a numbered collection. So like, oh, wow. That was kind of the coolest thing for us, was that we actually had a lot of offers for distribution from different companies, but like the idea of being part of a curated collection was really, really appealing. And some of the other films in that collection are phenomenal. Like Terrifier was in there, To Hell and Back, the documentary about Kane Hodder. Trying to think what else was in there. I'm blanking right now, but like phenomenal films. But
that's great, because many distributor companies just take the film, they put it on Amazon, and that's it.
Right.
Yeah.
And we wanted a little bit more of a personal experience like that, and when I told them what we were doing for Monster Palooza, they're like, "Oh, that's great. We'll have a booth, and you can just tell them to come by the booth or whatever."
Oh, nice.
So they're very encouraging, and this was a new project. Like we were the second year that they did that.
That's cool. Yeah, when I went to their website, it was the best indie distributor website I have been on. Yeah. It really encourages you to click those links and watch the films.
Yeah, and it, Epix, they have great films. Like they have so many things outside of like Turbo Kid, and Tales of Halloween. So even before they had the Dread, which is sort of a sub label within it, they had so many great films of like all genres. Nice. And they're just really good people. Like I genuinely really like everybody there.
I might approach them when I have my film finished next. I'm actually going to, because the website was so good.
Yeah. And like I said, they're like, I feel like they're very straight up, and they're just cool. They're cool to hang out with.
So we can find your film on Epic Pictures, Dry Blood.
Yeah, and like I said, it's on Amazon, so you can rent it on Amazon. Still,
you can watch it with ads on Amazon.
You can watch it with
least.
Ads.
Probably rent it too.
I recommend watching it without ads if you can.
Yes.
Because I think it does affect the pace.
Yes.
But, like that ad streaming thing, like that didn't really exist when we wrote the film. So like that wasn't a consideration. And so that idea, and it's something to keep in mind, like if you're planning to do a slow burn film, I don't recommend it. If you are going to do streaming, it makes it really tough, because once they start like randomly throwing an ad, because it's not even like normal ad breaks. Like when
I have that thing, my film is on Tubi,
right?
So it has ads.
Yeah, and with those things, you don't really control when those ads happen, right? Because it's not like, okay, at 15 minutes this is going to happen, or at, whatever. So like. That means like they might throw the ad in the middle of a scene, or in the middle of a build. Yeah. Whereas like the old school model for television is that you had these acts that were based on like you had a complete arc, and then you had a cliffhanger before the commercial break. So you had something really interesting happen. It was,
it was written that way.
Yeah. And it's written for the commercial and to bring you back. And movies don't necessarily have that, because they're meant to be experienced over an hour and a half, 2 hour period, right? So, like I find the ad model can be very disruptive, and so like if you know that, then going into it with the writing, you have to write in a certain way that allows for that. That allows for the fact that like, oh, there might be an ad at any point, and I've got to keep people interested enough that they're going to keep watching.
Yeah. I have to add to that, however, since people have it's a big deal to pay a couple of bucks to rent a film that you don't know anything about. So the ad streaming services lower the threshold for people to click on the film.
Yeah, and they're great for filmmakers because as a filmmaker, I think you might actually make more money off of those than you do off of some of the other streaming sites.
Okay.
Obviously, the rentals. If someone clicks to rent, or if they buy a physical, then that helps the filmmaker much more. Yeah.
Okay. I will rent it tonight again to support. Yeah, I will do that. So, but that's good to know good for the filmmakers. So, what were you? We have still a little bit of time, not much, I know. So, what was your point with the ad thing? Would you recommend not using the ad streaming services that use ads as a filmmaker?
No, I absolutely would. That's a huge revenue stream.
Okay.
So like you don't want to cut that out. It's really my point to that isn't to avoid those. It's to be aware of them and to think about when you are crafting your film, when you are editing it, when you are writing it, in those development phases, whatever, be aware that this thing is going to happen that could take your audience out of the film and they might not come back, because the danger is that when you cut away to an ad, they might go do something else, or might get on a phone call, or might switch to another thing and never come back to your movie.
Yes.
So how do you make it so that you're keeping them so interested in what's happening that they're going to come back?
That's a great point. Yeah. That's the world we are living in now.
Yeah, and that's really, like I said, everything changes all of the time with this industry, and it's that awareness of like, oh, movies don't necessarily work the way that they used to because they're watched in different ways, and just being aware that people are going to watch your movie on a phone now as opposed to watching it in a theater. Like it changes that experience, and so things that you can do in a theater with building tension or creating these sort of uneasy moments, like aren't going to relate well to a film. Like, and if you look at like the films that were great, like a film like The Shining, if it came out now, people would hate it. If Spielberg movies, like people would probably not even keep watching them because they'd be like, oh, I'm just watching a family have dinner. I'm so bored. I'm going to watch something else, right? Yeah, because they're not getting into it, and they're not getting into the substance of that. Actually, I just watched a really great film, Force Majeure, which I think came out years ago. Was it whatever, and it's a beautiful film, and it's very subtle, and it's you have these big wide shots where the camera's not moving and they're not cutting, and you just have this family interacting, or you have this thing happening in the frame, and it's like it's so beautiful and it's such an experience, but you have to just settle into it. Roma was like that too. Like Roma, you had to just sit and allow yourself to be quiet and like those aren't films that are going to do well with ad breaks, or they're not going to do well with whatever. So I think, knowing, where your film's going to be shown, who your audience is, I think it's really important.
Our studio time is ending here. Any other websites people should check out?
No, I don't think so. Actually, I don't. That's the only one that I have up right now. So.
Cool. I'm gonna put it on the links.
Okay.
Kelton Jones, thank you so much. I learned so much about this.
Yeah, it's fun talking to you. Obviously, we could talk for hours.
Yeah. So After Devil is coming soon.
Yes.
And Dry Blood is out.
Yes, I'm very excited about Of the Devil because I think people are really gonna like it.
Me too. I loved it.
Did you?
Yeah, I loved it. It's excellent. Wow.
That makes me very happy.
Thank you for being on with Miska Podcast. It has been 2 weeks since Kelton Jones was here, but we are back with Kelton. I was just editing it, but I heard that you have some good news of the film Off the Devil, so we decided that we're going to talk for a little bit more and give a little update. What's going on?
Thank you for letting me come back in.
Thank you.
I just wanted to update. Some of the press has come out.
Yes.
And we have an official release date, so it's going to be released digitally.
Awesome. And you also have Suzan Jones with you.
Yes, and I brought my lovely wife and producing partner.
Yes. So can you, just before we go to the news, what was your part in the film?
I did, what did I do? I did makeup, special effects, wardrobe, art department, props. What else did I do?
A lot.
I fed everybody. Made sure everybody was fed and watered and snacked.
We painted the entire house. It's like we had a friend that let us film in his house, and Suzan and I painted the entire place because it was all white walls before, so we had to
clean everything out, put it all in their garage, and then paint the walls.
And then brought in all the furniture and dressed it and did all the shopping on it. But the cool thing that she did was that she made the props. So like the headdress with the skull on it. She made that.
Yes.
That is a skull from Russia.
Yeah, we had to special order that from Russia. Not a real skull.
Not a real skull. It's a
3D for the kid.
When the kid
yes, that was huge.
Yeah, that's an actual pug skull, but not a real one.
Not a real one,
a really good 3D printed version of one.
And we weren't sure if it was going to make it in time, so it did. But
it did.
Yeah, that was crazy.
It was close.
And you have really cool family operation.
Yeah.
Because you're a couple, you're parents too, and all that.
We work together. We love it.
Yeah, our kids grew up on the set. Our oldest, actually, I used to work on sets when I was teaching college. I was teaching film production, and I would be like weaving in and out of C-stands, setting stuff, and he would be in a backpack on my back, just like weaving back and forth with his bottle and whatnot.
Wouldn't say a word.
And the crew was just like freaking out because they're like the little babies, like setting stands, a little kid. But
yes,
they both grew up.
We did Night of the Alien. How old they were? They were like 6 and 8 or something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
I look over and Declan's rolling sound.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have pictures of them like holding booms and stuff. So now they're both working professionally. Zeke's doing sound professionally, and he's doing
post.
He actually did the score. He's a musician, can play anything. He did the score. He did the
for Off the Devil.
Of the Devil.
And he did all the Foley and all the ADR and all the sound mix stuff. So
it was great.
Pretty well.
And Declan edited.
Yeah, and Declan edited, and then there
he edited the film.
Yeah, so he cut the scenes, and then we sent them to Clint, who did the final edit, and then kind of put things together, and he did supervise the whole post. But he'd send a scene to Declan. It's like, here, you cut this, and
how old are they?
Now they're 20 and 22.
Yep.
That's really impressive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they've been on set their whole life, so.
And they're actors too. Like Zeke played the Jesus ghost.
Yes. The creepy Jesus.
Yeah. The creepy Jesus. And Declan's in the creature suit, so he's the creatures.
Yes.
In fact, we have a photo of Zeke booming and rolling sound while he was dressed as the creepy Jesus. His scene was coming up, and I had to get him ready.
Oh, wow.
For that, but he had to boom in this one scene, and then he went into creepy Jesus.
Yeah, he did all our production sound, so he would be like, he'd be in costume.
I love it. But you have some news for the film.
Yeah, just the release date.
Yes,
it's coming out on August the 9th on streaming. I'm not sure exactly which platforms it's going to be on, but it should be pretty easy to find. But yeah, we got a write-up in Deadline magazine, which we're pretty excited about, and a lot of other Joe Blow.
A lot of good buzz.
A lot of good press coming out. So they're starting to release a little bit more for it. And
yes,
we're getting excited about it.
And the trailer is on the Deadline.
Yeah.
I'm going to put the link.
Yeah, I don't think the trailer was in the Deadline article, but it was in one of the... That might have been in Joe. Anyway, I'll send you the links.
Yes. So how was the process from 2 weeks ago? Because did you already have the distribution, or what happened in the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, so they announced the distribution deal with the Deadline article, and then I guess like a week or so after that, they started releasing the trailer, and then there was just an article releasing the key art for it.
Yes.
Have you seen the poster for it? It's pretty cool.
No.
It's crazy.
Let's see.
Sorry, my dad.
No worries. Your dad?
My dad keeps calling.
From where?
He's in Texas.
Oh, wow. So what are the... Since you now have the release date, what's the work? Oh, wow.
So this is our...
This is really... And it gives like a Netflix vibe with
Oh, yeah.
red and white.
Oh, that'd be nice.
I like that.
I wouldn't hate being on Netflix, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be mad about that.
Wow, this is excellent. I'm going to put it up here. So what's the work that you need to do now when you have the release date? You said promotion and all
Yeah,
that.
things like this.
Right now, like there's a PR company that's handling all that. So they are scheduling interviews with the cast members. It was actually kind of fun. They asked which cast members they could talk to, and so I reached out to them just to make sure that it was okay, with them to share their contact info. And
You have some stars.
So
They were very excited.
Everyone
was on board.
Yeah, Robert Lasardo was really excited. Like his role was amazing, but he really liked it because it's an unusual role for him. It's not the kind of roles that they normally give him. And he actually had to learn a different language for it. So like a lot of his dialogue was actually in Mayan.
I didn't know that.
He's actually speaking Mayan.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, as far as I know, anyway, I wrote it in Mayan, but I'm assuming he said it right.
Yeah.
But he
incredible.
was amazing. He came in and just was phenomenal for that.
Everybody was amazing.
Yeah.
Really everybody.
Vernon Wells was great. Do you know who Vernon is? He was in...
Yes, Mad Max 2.
Mad Max.
And Commando, the main villain.
Bennett. Yeah.
Yes, Bennett.
Yeah, he was fantastic.
Those are the biggest things we know him from. Or what do you think?
Yeah, I think those are the two that really that the fans love him. I saw the Road Warrior when I was a kid. I actually saw that with my mom in the theater.
Yes, he's the guy with the mohawk.
Yeah, he was nice. Yeah, amazing character. Like he just plays amazing villains. Like he's great actor.
He's quite a character.
Yeah.
And does he live here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and Eileen Dietz, who was in The Exorcist.
Eileen,
yes,
great.
So she was fantastic,
and this was cool. She was one of the girls who played the main.
Right, so she plays the Pazuzu. So when the image flashes up and you see the Pazuzu face, that was her, and then she was one of the actresses that played Reagan. So in all of the stuff that you couldn't do with a child, that's too traumatic to put a child through. That was actually her in the makeup.
Yeah,
doing that. So, and it was Dick Smith, who's an amazing makeup artist. Created a makeup look that would go on both her and Linda Blair, and look where you couldn't tell the difference. Like,
wow. Cool. So other steps. So the press is reaching out for the stars. Mm-hmm. What else do you have to do now? You have a month and a half to the release. No, 1 month.
Yeah.
I think it's mostly just waiting at this point. Like all of the hard work is kind of done at this point. So now it's just, waiting to see, how people like it. With Midsummer Scream's coming up, we might go down to that.
Sorry, what?
Midsummer Scream.
Okay.
It's an amazing event that they have down in Long Beach.
Please tell me more.
It's like it's a big horror event, and so like they have like haunted house stuff, and they have like live shows, and they have
and Zeke and Declan are going to be there as well.
Yeah,
they're performing.
Yeah,
doing what?
On something other than of the devil things. One is Zombie Joe's.
Yeah, so Zeke's doing a live theater piece with Zombie Joe's Underground.
Yes,
which is this bizarre, amazing underground theater
in North Hollywood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so and then Declan. They just hired him to be one of the performers. I guess they're doing a haunted house event as part of it. But it's really cool, especially if you're a fan of horror at all. It's
I love that the whole Team Jones is going.
Right.
So what are you two going to be there? Do you have flyers?
Well, Eileen's going to be there because she always gets a booth. So she's going to have a booth there.
And her Pazuzus.
So I may come and just kind of hang out with her and keep her company in the booth.
Meanwhile,
Nice.
passing out of the devil postcards.
Yeah.
And is it going to be transactional VOD or free streaming? Do you know that?
I don't know yet. All that's kind of what the distribution company decides. A lot of times, like they'll start with where you can buy it, but it depends on what it's on, right? So I know that they'll have like the ad based VOD as well. So,
like Tubi. Yeah, my film
Tubi and those.
My film is on Amazon that you can rent it and pay, or you can watch it on Tubi for free with ads.
With your
Yeah.
okay.
So our last film was like, so that they released it on Amazon for pay, and then they released it on Amazon Prime later, like a couple months later, and then it started going to like Tubi and like Roku and like tons of different. It's hard to even keep track. We actually like you have to go to the distributor's website for that to see what it's on, because every month,
which is great, the site, because it lists everything.
Yeah. How you can watch it.
Are you going to have any nowadays? Do you have events? Do you rent theater? Do you online watching? Anything like that?
We might do a thing. Someone reached out to us about doing a doing a live show when it comes out. So we might end up doing that.
Streamed.
Yeah. So
might stream it in. You want to go to a theater or something?
I'm not sure how they're going to do that. So.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's up to them.
I'm asking because this industry is changing so much. So
it's so different. I mean, our last film came out a couple of years ago, and like so much has changed just since then. It's like every 6 months, it's like a totally different industry.
Yeah,
and everybody. I mean, we didn't go to theaters for 2 years, so
yeah.
I know. How much legwork do you expect the distributor to do with the promotion?
I don't know, honestly, because like once you kind of put it in their court, it's sort of
it's up to them.
It's what they end up doing with it, and also it depends on the deal that you make with them. So I had a executive producer who did all of the work with the distributor, so I don't know all of that process.
So he spoke with the distributor.
Yeah, so he worked out a lot of that stuff in advance before. I really had too much to do with that. So
that's good, because I know many distributors who just take the film, they put it up on the platforms, but no one's promoting it.
Right.
So it's filmmaker's job. It can be.
It can be.
Well, I was very excited because they have a great PR firm, and so like they've been getting it into awesome magazines and on all the horror sites and whatnot. So very excited.
That's so good. Have you gotten any feedback of the trailer or anything?
I think my favorite comment is, "Oh my God, that's batshit crazy."
Awesome.
Which kind of describes the whole thing.
So someone just wrote, "Oh my shit."
Oh my shit.
I love that.
It's a really well done trailer, because I've seen the whole film, so I know which part you used.
Yeah.
Who did it? The trailer.
We don't know who cut the trailer. We were like, "Are we ever going to see a trailer?" And then, boom! This week it came out. So.
That's so good. I admire you guys, because in my last film, I did the trailer and I had to do lots of things. But you have figured out that someone else does the work that you do.
It's
that's just
kind of better.
On this one. Yeah.
Yes.
Because we did that with our previous film. Like we completely did everything ourselves. And we took that to the distributor. So we were very involved in.
Can you say the name of the film?
Dry Blood.
Yes.
So when we did Dry Blood. We had cut a trailer for it. We did the festival runs. We were involved in a lot of the press, and we talked all that stuff. And so we did all of that legwork ourselves. So it's kind of nice when you get to a point where you hand it to a distributor and they have people that handle that. But even with that one, even we had key art, we had a trailer. They ended up creating different key art and they cut a different trailer, which was much better than what we had done. And really, I think as the filmmaker, you're kind of better off not cutting your own trailer.
I agree.
It's one of those things that you have to sort of have the discipline to pass it on to somebody and say, what do you make out of this?
Yes, or money.
What's that? Yeah.
Or money, because I didn't have resources to get anyone to do it.
Yeah, but there's people that do it really, really well, and they just get it, and when you're doing it yourself, you're like, oh, I don't want to show this, or I don't want to show this. I don't want to give away spoilers, or or you cut things too long, or like it misses the excitement that somebody brings to it.
That's good.
Very exciting.
I will remember that for our film.
Yeah.
We have a couple of minutes left. Is there anything else or anything from this that you would like to talk? And I also would love to hear your links or your websites where we can find more about your work. Well, let's do your links. So, because you do photography
I do
too.
photography and art and props and things. Suzan Jones Photos with a Z, Suzan Jones Photos.
On Instagram.
Yes.
Perfect. I'm gonna put it up too.
Thank you.
Yeah, there was such a broad question that it sort of like
we
put me
were
in a
like,
brain lock of like,
Yes.
what?
Because you
what
came.
part do you want?
We talked that you have some news, and now we wanted to add this to be part of the podcast. So I'm just checking: is there anything we're still missing?
Yeah, the Instagram, and then the website is on my Instagram that you can go to have both of our work.
Nice.
Yeah. But I think the biggest thing is just letting people know that it's coming out in August and
August 9th.
August 9th, and we're very excited about it. And like I said, having the press and having people respond to it on social media and seeing some of the feedback, like people are very excited about it, which is, when you make something, you're always like, I made this thing,
I know.
And like by the time you're done with it, it's like, but then when you start getting feedback and people are excited about it, you're like, okay, this is actually pretty good. Like I feel good about this.
Yeah.
So.
And I love the film.
Oh, nice.
Yes. Off the Devil.
Of the Devil.
So what were your thoughts having seen it?
Yeah.
Did you, I'm curious to see what your take is on it.
Well, I think I was surprised how well the VFX were done, because there was much more VFX compared to your previous film.
Right.
So I think you had really stepped to the next level with the filmmaking. And there was disturbing stuff, especially with the kid with the and the butterfly. Was it real? No.
No, that was VFX.
Yeah. So actually so I think in all ways it was more intense than your previous film, and it was really well done. And the fact that they went to Mexico, right? It brought the production level much higher.
Nice.
So I really enjoyed it. It was scary, and the most disturbing shot was the old woman with the maggots coming from the eyes.
That's my favorite shot.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was
That
like,
was my favorite shot.
and I think I went back and saw like how have they done it, because this is really disturbing.
Yeah.
Actually, there was one question that the Christian themes are there quite a lot. What do you think about that as a filmmaker?
Well, it was a big part of that because that film was set within kind of the Latin American community.
Yes.
And Catholicism is a big part of their history, in many ways. So like, it's very closely tied to their belief system and their family units, but there's also the sort of, pre-Columbian history of, you had a lot of those forces came in with the religion as a colonistic oppressive group, right? So
yes.
That was sort of forced upon the people, whatever. So it's a mix between belief and spirituality and also collective trauma. I think that's within the entire, really all of the Americas, and I think that's a part of the history of the continent that people don't really talk about a whole lot. And so, that's far background for me, but like it was sort of underneath the whole story for me.
Yes. Because the magic that they did in Mexico was something else. But now you said
very
it's
ancient,
Maya.
That's going way back. Because I wanted to be very respectful of Hispanic culture and Mexican culture and whatnot going into it, but I also wanted to make something that was scary and something that sort of plays in the subconscious.
It's very scary, and thank you for coming back here to share about.
Thank
And
you
Suzan,
for
thank you.
having
We
us.
should talk at some point
This is fun.
more with you and me. Just
Yeah.
that would be great.
I was going to also mention, because I was thinking about this today. because it came up for another script, is that we were talking about writing for your budget.
Yes.
And the thing about that movie, when I wrote a film that I couldn't shoot. Like I did not have the resources or the skills or the funding to make the movie that was on paper. But I wrote it and I made it anyway. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, I think there's a tendency for filmmakers to try to write what they know they can do.
No,
and
just write it.
And I think it's a little bit wrong-headed in a way, because I think really it's like you should write it for what does the story ask for and what does the audience want to see? You know, like what are you trying to make happen, right? What's the coolest thing that can happen?
Yeah.
And then you figure it out.
I love it.
You just figure it out.
You just figure it out.
And you did it. That's good, because everyone else says you should just write a small thing, write it in, make it happen in one cottage.
Yeah, yeah. Which there's great films that do that, you know.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, it's easy to limit yourself, and you know, creativity and this dream world that we create, like it's really beyond limits, you know. And I think it's good to remember that, remind yourself that, you know, what would you want to see if you were watching it? You know?
He writes it, and then I make a couple of phone calls and give out some hugs, and please.
I love it. Those are great words to end by. So After Devil, August 9th on streaming platforms. And we can find it. What's the name of the distribution company? Because they have all the links.
Oh, Uncorked.
Uncorked Entertainment.
Entertainment, yes.
After Devil. Thank you so much, Suzan Jones,
you.
Kelton.
Thank you.
Suzan, maybe you'll come as a guest another time.
Definitely. I'd love to. I'd love that.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I do have another film that I was the lead actor in. That's if you're into the exorcism.
We have 1 minute. We have 30 seconds.
The Evil Down the Street.
Evil Down the Street.
Yeah, which is on like Tubi and all
Do
of those.
some links and stuff like that.
That's great.
Yeah.
You check
So
that out too.
we're going to check it out too. Evil Down the Street.
Yes.
Thank you. Bye.